Call to order. Roll call.
Yes. Wondergem,
Here.
Klein, Steffes,
Here.
Gardine, Palmer, here, DeHaan,
Here.
and Hybor. Quorum.
Four, so barely a quorum. All right. Please note as a courtesy to members of the audience and the Board of Education, please silence your cell phone. Public comment will only be able to, our public will only be able to speak during the public comment section if signed up. Approval of agenda.
So moved. Support.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? All right. Let's see. Future action item. Do I just read this right here? All right. Future action item 2A, 2024-2025 proposed budgets, general fund, food service fund, student activity fund, capital projects funds, sinking fund, 2013-15-19 bond fund, 2020, 2022, 2024 bond fund, and debt fund information only. Do we need a motion?
It's a future action, so you do not.
Do not? All right. So that would be
Hand it to Raj.
Okay,
Yep.
Raj.
Okay, so as required by law, we have to present a budget. And you may recall that, we have timelines for a budget. The state of Michigan and their budget is quite different than ours. So we have to give you kind of a, I guess you could say magic ball look at based on things. And I just want you to remember, we always look at things very, very conservative, and there's a lot that's going to happen between now and then, but again, we have to adopt the budget. So Heather's going to review the budget that we recommend. She'll review it with you.
So just to start off, we're going to have, this is our agenda for tonight. The most important part will be this next slide, but the purpose of this hearing is to comply with the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act, and we will submit and address the following budgets to you for review. Starting with, like I explained, these are the mills that we propose be levied. For general fund, 18 mills on non-homestead properties. Debt service is on all properties, and that's at 5.05 mils. And sinking fund is 1.3502. We've talked in the past about Headley rollbacks. We did not receive a Headley rollback on our general fund. However, when you look at all property, we did receive a small rollback on our sinking fund.
Can you go back real quick?
Sure can.
I'm not going to slow you down too much. So prior to this last round of bonds, the district, right now we're at 505. We're at
3.2.
3.2.
Yep.
And that has basically say we're good stewards for the property owners within the Grandville School District.
Yes.
I would love it to get back there. So, it'll be a while. Go ahead. Just want to state that.
So Headley rollback, as you well know, is when taxable values of current properties are increasing at a higher rate than CPI is increasing. And so I just show here the impact to Grandville with the sinking fund reduction. So over the years since 2018-19, we've not captured about 441,000 in available dollars based on that rollback. That we are currently working with our attorneys. I know on the last slide you saw that that millage is up for renewal in 2026, but we are looking to see what other options we might have. Not only to potentially, we would bring it to you, but to potentially restore it to 1.4 mils, but also to expand the availability of what we can use those funds for. We're now able to utilize it for tech and buses when we go back to the voters, should they pass that. So here's the slide. You beat me to it. You can see the 3.2 and then the 5.05 is where we've been since we passed the bond in 2019. Again, where do we rank? So this is, everybody in the county and whatnot is going through the same budget hearing process. So I don't have their new numbers, but this is where we land within Kent County based on what they proposed last year. And this is where we land within Ottawa County. Debt service fund, again, the assumptions here are that the levy will...
You go back real quick. When you do that, where are we with student populations by district? So when you rank us like that?
So on this, I'm ranking just by the debt mill, but
And I
like
understand
Grand
that,
Haven...
But it'd be nice to also have the student count in there. It kind of gives you a help too.
Yeah, I can do that. I mean, I was just going to tell you, like, for us, Grand Haven is like what I would call a district that is very, very similar to us in terms of size, in terms of demographics, and that. So I know that they were looking to go for a bond issue, but their voters did turn it down recently. Debt service fund assumptions, the levy will remain at the 5.05, and that's not just based on my work. I do have that vetted by PFM, who is our financial consultant as well. We did see an increase in property tax values of approximately 8% in Kent County. It's amazing how they continue to climb. So for debt service fund, we're looking at revenues of just under 11.8 million with expenditures of 13.6 million. Which will take us down to an ending fund balance of $816,000. And when we're talking expenditures in the debt service fund, I mean, that's essentially our mortgage on our facilities. It's our principal and interest payments on our bonds. For capital projects, sinking fund, again, the revenue from the 1.3502 mills, that same taxable value increase of approximately 8%. And then this millage is renewed through 12 of 2026. The projects that will come out of this budget are ones that you've already approved: the Century Park roof, the high school stadium turf, GEC Phase 5. If you remember, it's the build out of those 2 additional classrooms, which we also have a portion of grant money that's going towards that, and then some miscellaneous building improvements that are very smaller than what it would require to bring to you for approval, and if there were any emergency flooding or anything of that nature, those would come out of there too. So looking at just under 3.1 million with similar expenditures for a deficit of 26,000, bringing that fund balance down to 442, 248, and that's kind of typically where we run with that. We do carry a little bit over each year.
Were you saying that there may be other things could be covered by sinking fund in the next round? Is that kind of what you had said?
Yeah, so if we were to go back to the voters, one of the things we're working through with the attorneys would be that expansion of what you can use those funds for. So right now, you can't use it for maintenance and repairs, but you can use it to improve a roof or to improve a facility. But there's new language out there that was passed legislatively where you can use it to purchase buses and technology now.
Thank you.
So the other fund that lands under capital projects is our 2020 through 2024 bond fund. You'll remember in May we issued that third and final series. And the projects that that third fund will go towards is our 5-6 remodel, transportation and maintenance remodel that has been approved, and then future technology purchases. So looking at revenues are around 300,000 right now with expenditures of 6 million for an operating deficit of 5.7 with an ending fund balance of 6.9 million. And I think I told you at the last meeting when we were talking about the technology and the transportation and maintenance, I think we're hoping to get that technology piece to stretch through 2026. Food service fund. This is a self-supporting program. I can't give enough credit to Jeff and his crew for all the work that they've done. It's amazing now that we had the free meals this year, just the increase alone in the number of meals served, and it didn't require a whole lot more of staff costs. So it's really amazing work that they do. We do have excess fund balance requirements to meet, as do a lot of districts in the state, which is new since the COVID funding and the free meal piece. But I guess, one of the benefits of that is, our freezers at the high school, right, are how old? As old as that building, right? So that's what we're looking to bring to you at some point in the future to get those redone. So we need to work with the architect and the CM on that to get an idea of what that would look like. But hopefully we'll be bringing that project to you in the future. And food service can cover that funding, that cost. Yep.
That's the capital outlay portion.
Yeah, that's the capital outlay portion that we would be looking at. So additionally, with the indirect transfer, the way the formula is, we can transfer more to general fund as well. So you'll see that coming up here. And then when we get to the general fund, I broke that out specifically.
Food service money can go into general fund, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there's a portion every year that we can transfer for indirect costs to charge that food service program, heat, lights, that type of thing. So,
Okay.
so revenues of just under or just over 3.6, expenditures of 4.2, and again, those expenditures would include, like I talked about, that capital outlay project potentially for a deficit of 600,000 with an ending fund balance of 348. And to put it in perspective for you, that 348 is where we ran when we were charging for meals and stuff pre-COVID. That was our typical where we would carry. So student activity fund. Now this is really just money in and money out. It's generated by fundraising activities for different groups. It's required now that we put it in its own fund. So we're looking at revenues of 1.3 million with expenditures of 1.275, with a surplus of 25,000. It gets us to a fund balance of about 878,000. So,
Heather, since you're the governor of the Student Activity Fund, with that balance, are there anticipated requests for spend that you're aware of?
So
Seems kind of high.
it has been running a little higher, but we have, when you look at like senior survivor, for example, they have raised a lot of money, and I know this year in particular, the high school, they have a plan now for the what, and that was part of
Okay.
when they were doing that fundraising. So some of that is just a timing issue, if you will.
Okay.
And this time of year also, like, we should, that's our projection, but we might be a little higher on the expenditure side, just again, because of timing and when things
No,
hit
I
as we
understand.
close out the school year.
I understand.
so.
Just when you look at $900,000 that you're managing,
Yes.
it's not $900.
Yeah. It's all buildings though, right? Like it's.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. That's just, what's it typically?
It's usually around that amount, but it's due to a lot of those elementary schools having those fundraisers towards the end of the school year. For example, like Cummings just raised $30,000 or $40,000 at the end of the year for next year. So just because of that timing at the end of the
Got
year,
it.
there's a lot of that. But
Okay.
usually it falls around that same like 50 to 90-ish thousand, or 100,000.
Okay.
Sorry, 500 to 100,000.
Okay.
She covers that more than I do now.
Okay.
So.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Kim.
So with that, going into the general fund, and like Roger said, I'm always going to try to be as conservative as possible. We do not have a budget from Lansing yet. We have some estimates of what they would like to do. But at the timing of this is, as it has been in other years, I just don't have the information. So these are my best guesses, and they are conservative. I estimate a $250 per pupil increase in the foundation allowance. So that would be up to $98.58 for next school year. I am estimating pupil enrollment to be flat with a 90-10. I mean, when I say flat, I think when you look at the actual calculation, I think I went up maybe 7 kids on a blended amount, not on a full amount. So,
Something I want to point out, that 250 increase could be as much as 700 per pupil. So it's a huge swing.
That's real conservative.
So for a business person to have to figure that out, we're always going to be very conservative. And I'm not saying it's going to be 700, but it could be.
Who's
There have
250,
been
is that the
discussions.
governor's cost, or is that
yeah,
the Republicans?
that's
or-
the governor's estimate. So when Roger talks about that 700, I have a couple slides at the end, because I can already, I see I see where it has to do with the OPEB and the retirement, and I want to go into that with you at the end. I'm not putting that in my budget. It would make a $2 million, potentially it would be a $2 million swing in our favor. I am not confident that that's a done deal, so that's why it's not in there. But it, like I said, I will talk about it in a few slides down. But the taxable value increase of 8%, levying the full 18 mills with no Headley override. And then their budget also included the continuation of the mental health and security funding, which for us is about like 1.2 million, and a 6% increase in at-risk funding. There was also some small increases in special ed funding as well.
Does the mental health and security funding come from the school aid fund or a separate bucket?
That is coming from the school aid fund now.
Okay, so they're just giving you a bucket with a hole in it. All right. They're
And
just
then-
divvying up the money as to how they see fit. It should go into instead of just giving us our funds.
Yes, it's essentially.
Yeah, they're directing it
It's
to be used.
essentially.
That's what we gotta
We have
do.
to apply. We have to
You
apply.
got a job out of it.
We have to apply for it. We have to fit the box of what's
Understand.
allowable.
Okay.
So, and then this budget also eliminates the prior year one-time revenues. It's approximately 2.5 million that we knew was falling off from our final ESSER funding. On the expense side of things, our salaries and benefits are in line with our contract agreements. So average steps are about 2.4%, and overall salary increase to those lines is 2.75. Our staffing levels have been adjusted for 24-25 through attrition. So in the past, we have had 40 plus new hires, et cetera, some through resignation, a lot through retirement. This year, at the elementary level alone, we were able to absorb everything but 1 or 2. So, and that's, I mean, there's a lot that went into that, right? Because you have the consolidation of your 5th, 6th, so there's some there, and then, the ability to do that, that
That's good.
was good. It's a good. So, the retirement rate doesn't go up much. It goes up to 31.36 from 31.34. And then the employer insurance cap increase was 0.2% from the prior year, which was 4%.
Yeah, that's surprising.
It's really good. So there's that medical CPI piece is really interesting, but I think the following year it'll rebound and go the other way.
Okay.
So, and then just a reminder, we did approve back in November so that we have them in time for school in the fall, a purchase of 4 buses. So that's in there as well.
Are they in the 23 budget or the 2024-5?
24, 25.
Okay.
Yep. So what projection for 23-24 year end is just over a $500,000 deficit, with bringing us down to a $7.8 million fund balance. As a percentage of expenditures, that's 9.09%. When you back out those, what I'm going to call adjusted items that basically inflate your revenue and your expenditure lines. So that's your UAAL, which was 7.4 million, and your federal dollars in 23-24, which was another 4 million. Your adjusted fund balance, backing out those net zero items, is 10.54. Moving forward to 24-25, still looking at about 85 million in revenue. A lot of that has to do, why is that close to 23-24? It's not because of the federal dollars. It's because of the state projection and because of the increase in property tax values. And then expenditures of 86 million, dropping down to a 6.9 fund balance with an 8.04 percentage of expenditures. And then what I did is for 24-25, again, I backed out the UAAL, which at this time I'm still projecting at 7.4 million, and the 2.6 million in federal revenue that we're estimated to receive. So now the OPEB piece, which stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits. It's essentially health insurance for retirees. And what I want you to understand is that this is a closed system. No one can move into this system. Any new hire in school cannot move into this.
What year did they have to retire to be part of that? Or what year did they have to start teaching?
It was anybody who is basic, MIP graded, and anybody who did not switch plans back in 2012.
Okay.
So in 2012, you had the option. They opened it up to everybody and gave them the option. You could go into a 40B plan, which is more like a 401k.
Yep.
So those are the individuals that are in that plan. So the system is fully funded now. And there is in, not statute, but in the act, it said when that is fully funded, that should be returned basically to those who paid. Executive budget came out with this plan here, which you'll note that the pension side of things is not fully funded at this point. That pension side of things should be paid off by like 2034, I believe. And so the thought was, well, we'll lower the employer contribution of 7%, and we'll swing it over to the pension side of things. And then what would happen is the state then would lower their contribution from the 17 to the 10. And that's what gives you that 670 million, which is what divided by our per pupil count would give us another $500 per pupil if it went to the foundation. So that's the executive and the Senate. In between this and the next slide that I'm going to show you, there's been a lot of work done by not just like the business groups. There's a lot of groups that advocate for schools and for kids. And that is trying to educate the legislature on what that means. So really what that means there is that they could do whatever they wanted with the money, right? So if they wanted to transfer some more to the general fund, they could do that. This, and I do like the title, this isn't my title, but Preferred and Responsible Plan. Is that good, Joe?
I'll go on record saying that's my title.
This is what would give us approximately $2 million more in revenue. And the thing about it is the people that paid in, our staff, our employees that paid in, that, if they're still in that plan, even though they're still working, that 3% election goes away for them. That's huge, right? Like, this is what it should be. The employer rate should be eliminated. The employee rate should be eliminated. That system is closed. It's fully funded. Let's give it back to the people who paid in and move on and continue with what we're doing over here on the pension side. So,
And again, because no
Trying to be
one-
good with your time.
Because no one's going into that fund, because it's 100%, it's 100%. It's not like more people are gonna go in there, so it won't be 100%. So it really does not make sense to be funding that portion at this time. The difference, if they did switch it over, is really months. It's not even, I mean, it takes very little off. And it, not to mention, it's not supposed to happen, so.
The legislature votes on this, is that?
yeah, there's,
Will be there.
you know, there's their state aid, their finance committee groups that are still meeting. And I know that there's been a lot of work to educate the different, you know, House, Senate, executive side of things so that they understand what this would mean. So.
I'm going to save it for the regular meeting.
Okay,
I'm going to keep you on track.
all right, appreciate it.
Hey, no
Just
problem.
kind of feel like I've been long-winded tonight.
Actually, it's been quite concise. You've been doing a great
Very
job.
good.
Thanks. And so this is just, like we talked about earlier, just the general fund balance history, and that's without the adjustments that we talked about, so. That's all I have.
Nice job.
Thanks.
It's complicated.
Are you concerned at all about the number of deficit spending that we're doing?
Let me answer that.
Sure.
I see a lot of the, you know, the parentheses.
Concerned about the current reality, I mean, we're all in the same boat. We're all, because
school
the
districts.
federal dollars went away, if you utilize those federal dollars on our greatest resource, our people, we put support systems in place, that, you know, money is gone. And so it is a new normal, and as Heather had mentioned, through attrition and other things, we are in a decent spot at this time where we don't have major layoffs like in Ann Arbor, and you will see, if that OPEB piece doesn't go through, you will see some layoffs around from some different districts, because simply put, you can't keep spending that same amount, right? I mean, you can't. Fortunately, for us, through attrition and so on, the fund balance, while it goes down, it doesn't go down to, you know, we have a 7% board policy. Do we feel comfortable at 8? No, but I don't think it's going to end up at 8. I think it's gonna be a little higher than that.
On that foundation funding.
Yeah.
being maybe
Now,
one
I will say,
piece.
if you can't, when you look to the future, you know, we've already talked to our administrators about it, and the way we're doing things, we are doing things different to prepare for the future, so that, you know, our goal is not to have massive layoffs, but at the same time, we have to evaluate everything, and if things aren't better at that time, I mean, the only way you're going to get revenue is increased enrollment. Birth rates are down big time. People have left Michigan big time. So I think I said this before, flat is, if you're flat, you're actually growing, because you're keeping people, you know, we're fortunate that we're a destination district, and I think we'll maintain that flat enrollment, but some people aren't. And so they will be, you know, if things don't pan out in the future, probably going to be laying off, you
We'll
know,
see that.
evaluating some things in restructuring and laying some people off. It's just the time that we're in. It's that phase is over, and
No, this is
now we're
next.
entering a new phase.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
Not at this time.
All right, the next regular board meeting will occur after the budget hearing adjourns on June 20th. Right now at 7 PM, this meeting is adjourned.